and I am the programs coordinator here at the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound. I use they, them pronouns, and I wanted to welcome everyone to our session on creating social media graphics using Canva. We are doing this as a part of a big series of webinars and workshops. Some of them pertain directly to Give Local, but most of them are designed to be used both during Give Local and also for any kind of like online fundraising and online communications that you have to do. I want to let everyone know that as we get started that I am going to be recording this session. And if you, for whatever reason, do not want to have your video showing, or if you don't want to have your audio recorded, that's 100% fine. Go ahead and you can turn anything off that you do not want to have potentially shared in the recording. The recording will be shared via email after all is said and done in the next day or two, along with any other materials from the presenters that we can pass along. And I will also be posting them onto our Give Local toolkit, as well as on the spsgives.org website. So that way you can go back and revisit it as many times as you need to, take as many notes as you need to. And throughout this session, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, or when we stop at sections where we're answering questions, you can go ahead and come off mute and ask your question that way. Totally fine, no matter what happens. Also understand that a lot of us are working from home still. And if you do come off mute and, dog starts barking or cat decides to knock over your computer, it happens, totally fine. We totally welcome that and welcome any other part of your life that happens to join us today. So before I pass this along, I do want to note one more, as I said, that we do have a series of different workshops going on hosted by the Community Foundation. And we have 2 more left for the 2020 year. And the last 2 are going to be, the next one is on October 6th. And it is for year-round donor engagement. So it's going to talk a little bit about different virtual best practices on engaging your various donors and other constituents, not just for a fundraising event, but for all year round to really build those relationships out. And then our last one is going to be on October 14th, hosted by 3 Girls Media. And this one is going to be on the top 10 organic social media strategies. And so that one's going to be talking about how to use your resources to the fullest to hopefully engage variety of your constituents through huge, vast array of different platforms that we have available to us, especially right now when most of us are living in the digital era. So I think with that, since those are the final 2, those are my housekeeping. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our presenters today from 3 Girls Media, Erika and Shania.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Melissa. I'm Erika Taylor Montgomery, and I'm the CEO of 3 Girls Media. And it's wonderful to see some familiar faces here today. I see Nicole Woolsey, and I see Hillary from the YWCA, and I see some other familiar faces. So it's great to have you joining us today, as well as meeting a bunch of new people. So we're going to learn a little bit about Canva today and how it can help you as an enterprise and a nonprofit. And we're going to dive into brand guidelines and all kinds of great stuff. But first, a little bit about me and my background. My initial career right out of college was journalism. I was on air in the San Francisco Bay Area, both television and radio, for over 20 years before I transitioned to marketing and PR. Worked for a very large PR agency in Silicon Valley. And that was before I ultimately became a press secretary for the California State Legislature. And finally, when I couldn't stomach politics anymore, I decided to venture out on my own and start my own business, 3 Girls Media. And that was 15 plus years ago. So I've had a long and varied career, and I'm very excited to pass along some of my knowledge to you today. And I'd very much like to introduce Shanae Bemis, and Shanae is our Senior Director of Marketing and PR here at 3 Girls Media. Hi, Shanae.
Hello, everyone. So similar to Erica, I got my start in journalism. I have a degree in digital journalism from Central Washington University. I spent some time as a small town journalist in Allensburg, Washington, before transitioning over to marketing. And I've been here ever since. So super excited to speak with everyone today and share some information with you.
Great. So thanks, Shanae. We're going to talk a little bit about Three Girls Media and who we are, just so you know a little bit about our company. We're a full service marketing and public relations agency. So we do all kinds of content marketing. We do blogging for search engine optimization. We do public and media relations. We do all kinds of marketing, including graphic design, and website design and build. We do social media management. We do paid online advertising, both on Google as well as social media sites, and a lot of other things. So if you have any marketing or public relations or graphic design or web needs, we are a local company based in Yelm, and we would love to chat with you. So without further ado, we'll dive into what we're going to learn. Shanae?
Alrighty, so today we will learn about getting started with Canva, canva.com, and how you can get started there. We'll go do a brief overview of the platform and the tools and features it has. We'll talk about creating a brand kit and why that's important. We'll also discuss some graphic design best practices, and then at the end of the presentation, we will do a live demo and show you from beginning to end how to create a graphic.
Great. And so some of you may be asking, what is Canva? Well, Canva is a free and very easy to use graphic design tool. You can find it at canva.com. And it's very easy to set up an account. You can do it using your email, or you can log in using your Google or Facebook account. It doesn't really matter which you choose. Any of them will get you in and get you started with a free account on Canva.
So when you go to the website, this is what you're going to see. As we mentioned, over on the left-hand side, you can see that you can sign up with Google, you can sign up with your Facebook account, or you can sign up with email. Once you've created an account, to log in, you'll just use the login button in the top right-hand corner. Alrighty, so let's talk about some Canva basics. Canva includes both free and paid content. There is a free version and a paid version. The paid version is $12.99 a month. So there is a bit of a cost to it, but on a yearly basis, it's much cheaper than other graphic design tools out there. And because it's on a month-to-month basis, it's a lot, you don't have to enter into a contract like you would for Photoshop or any other software. Your designs are always available because it is an online tool. Because it's just a website, you don't download anything onto your computer, regardless of where you are. If you're using a computer at home, if you're using a computer at your workplace, or even on your phone, your designs are always available to you. Like I said, it is available on your phone. It's available as a mobile app. We do recommend mostly using the web version for any kind of designing that you're doing. But if you happen to need to make a small, quick adjustment to something or send a design to someone else on your team, you can do that through your mobile device. And then the other great thing about Canva is because it's not a program, it's just a web browser application, it runs on just about any computer, which is very vital for people who don't have the latest or the most impressive computer or other device at their workplace.
And one thing I can say about the mobile app is that I personally have found that it's not nearly as intuitive or easy to use as the desktop version. So although it's convenient to have the app on your phone and use it if you need to make a small adjustment, from a basic design perspective, it's much easier to be able to do it using your, oh, sorry, there's that lifestyle thing, my dog in the background. but it's much easier to be able to use the desktop version for designing.
Alrighty. So once you get in and have created an account and logged in, this is what your home screen is going to look like. The first thing I want to bring your attention to is the column on the left-hand side. So this is the navigation column. This is where you can kind of hop around the different areas of the website. And like I said, this is your home section. And on this home area, you can see all of the different kinds of designs that you can create using Canva. You can do Instagram posts, you can do Facebook posts, you can do a cover for your Facebook profile. You can also do print media, so things like posters, flyers, infographics. You can also use Canva to create logos, which is a great tool for organizations that are starting out or maybe need to do a logo redesign. And then you can also do things like desktop wallpapers, you can do menus, all sorts of different things. And from your home screen, you'll be able to access all of this. The next tab that I'd like to talk about is the Templates tab. The Templates area is where you can find pre-made graphics that are 100% customizable. So what this does is it gives you a great starting place whenever you're trying to create a graphic and maybe you're not quite sure what you want it to look like or you need some inspiration. You can come into the templates area and find hundreds of templates for each different kind of design type. So things like infographics, posters, or logos. And all of the different pieces are 100% customizable. And this allows you, if you just need a poster super quick, you can just hop in, make a few edits or adjustments to one of the templates they already have, and you'll already have a really well-designed piece of content that you can use right off the bat. The next section I wanted to briefly talk about is the apps section. What this is it allows you to integrate your Canva account with other applications online. So this is things like Google Maps, where you can connect with Google Maps and use that software to add a map to your designs, which is helpful for things like social media graphics if you're trying to share information about where an event is or maybe where your home base is located. You can also do things like integrate directly with your Instagram account so that you can post directly from Canva and kind of get rid of the middleman there. You can also use different things like duotone, color mix, or glitch, which are different little applications to enhance your images or kind of spice up what they look like. I also wanted to briefly talk about Canva's design school. Their design school is completely free, and it has tutorials and courses that are, again, another great starting place for anyone who's maybe a little bit new to either Canva or graphic design or both. So they have things like how to get started with Canva. So if you come out of this presentation and you still have questions, that's a great place to start. They also have tutorials about their Canva Pro section, and then they also have things like graphic design basics and then how to put together a brand kit for your business. So speaking of brand kit, Erika, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are several advantages for creating a brand kit. Number one, it allows for consistency. So if you have a brand kit, no matter who's in your organization that may be creating different kinds of graphics for you, you'll all be using the same colors, the same fonts, the same general look and feel, and that really helps for consistency with your brand. It also makes designing graphics really quick and easy because you don't have to think about, oh my goodness, what kind of font am I going to use for this particular poster or for this social media graphic. It's been predetermined because you've chosen it for your brand kit. And so it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and ultimately it will save you a lot of time. And then lastly, it keeps all the important information in one place. You can have a brand kit built into canva.com, and we're going to show you that in just a few minutes and how you can do that. But you can also have the same information in a Word document or in a PDF that you can share amongst various people at your organization who may be creating graphics or posters or invitations or those kinds of things. So they all have the same consistent look and feel, the same colors, the same fonts, the same general imagery, the same logo usage, and it really comes in handy quite a bit. So creating a brand kit is very, very important.
Alrighty, and in the brand kits section of Canva, you can go ahead and upload your brand logos. So that can be a JPEG, PNG, whatever format you have them in. You can upload them here so they're always available to you. You can add your brand colors, so you're going to use the hex codes for that. And then you can add as many as you want, basically. And this just means that all of these colors are right there at the tips of your fingers whenever you're creating graphics. You can quickly switch them in and out. And it means you don't have to constantly refer back to like a document or anything else in order to get those colors. You can also add brand fonts. So if you want a certain font to be used always for headings, if you want a certain font to be used for subheadings, et cetera, et cetera. So here's another look at that. You can see these are a couple colors that I've added in as kind of an example, so you can see how that would look. You can also see, so for in this instance, for our headings, we would be using Nunham Gothic. Same thing for subheadings, and you can set this to any of the fonts that are available within Canva.
All right, so now let's talk a bit about Canva functionality. And we're going to talk about how you can use different photos that you've taken as an organization, as well as photos that Canva has available in their library, different elements that you can use like stickers or GIFs or video snippets. We're going to talk about the tools that Canva has available for you. And then we're going to show you how to download your work from Canva. So if you're going to be using it in social media, we'll show you how you can publish directly to your social media platforms from Canva once you create a design. We'll also show you how to download it into a JPEG or PNG or other format if you're going to be printing it or need to save it on your computer for some reason.
Alrighty, so this is once again our home screen. When you want to be creating a design, the first thing you're going to do is click this Create a Design button that's found on the left-hand side. Once you do that, you're going to get a drop down, and it offers a few different suggested things that you can, so that you can use templates. So and then the other thing it does is when you select any of these, so if you would select like this Instagram post or Facebook cover, it will automatically pull the correct dimensions for you. So that way you're adhering to the social media's platforms, their specific requirements for dimensions. So an Instagram post is not necessarily the same size as a Facebook post, and a Facebook cover is not necessarily the same size as a Facebook post. So having Canva automatically pull those dimensions for you makes it much easier, so you don't have to look that up over and over. So in this instance, we're going to talk about what you can do if you're starting from scratch. But again, if you wanted to start from a template, you can see how up here at the top, they have ready-made templates that are available for you. In the search bar up at the top where it says Search Templates Pro, you can put in any search terms you want. So if you wanted to do an Instagram post that happened to be about, let's say like Earth Day, or if you were doing something like a summer event, you can type in, use those search terms to find templates that would be relevant to the kind of graphic you're trying to create.
It also works great for holidays if you want to do a post for Halloween, for your social media, or for Thanksgiving, or the end of year holidays. There's a lot of pre-made templates in Canva that you can use for those sorts of things. And it also has similar templates for things like invitations or posters or anything like that that's themed around holidays. There's quite a few available templates in Canva that you might find useful.
So the first thing I wanted to mention is up here at the top, there's a couple different buttons. There's the home button, and that's just to return you back to your home screen. And then we have this file button. And what this does is it allows you to change the name of your Canva document. So in this case, it auto fills it in as Instagram post untitled. If you hit that little pencil button, you can go ahead and change that title to whatever you want. You can also create a new design here. You can have Canva include print bleed, which is really helpful when you're creating any kind of graphic that is going to be printed out. What this does is it shows you the available space you have within a graphic and how much space you need to leave for when the graphic eventually gets printed or the print piece gets printed. You also have a manual save here, which is really helpful to make sure you're not losing your work if you happen to navigate away from the page or if your browser gets closed. Canva does have a auto save feature. So about every 30 seconds, it will automatically save any changes you've made. But before you navigate away from the page, it's always good practice to hit that save button, even though there is the auto save feature. The other things you can do here is you can make a copy of this file. So if you wanted to create a copy and then jump into this other version and make a few changes and you just kind of wanted to see how it would look, you can do that here. The Resize tab is a pro feature, but I do want to go over it really quickly. What this allows you to do is if maybe you're like halfway through creating a graphic and then you realize instead of creating an Instagram graphic, I need to create a Facebook graphic. When you have a pro account, you can actually resize on the fly. So instead of doing a graphic that's 1080 by 1080, you can go ahead and switch that over to a Facebook post, which is off the top of my head, I think it's 1200 by 628. And you would be able to do that here. Without a pro account, what you would need to do is you would need to either start from scratch or you would need to just copy and paste into a new document that is the appropriate size.
And the pro account is really well worth it. There are some features and benefits on Canva that are not free of charge. You can get a pro subscription for $12.99 a month. And for most organizations, that's highly affordable. And it's really beneficial if you want to resize images or have access to some of the other pro features that Canva offers. Again, it's only $12.95 a month and you can use it throughout your organization.
So the next tab underneath templates is the photos section. Canva has a ton of free photos that you can use in your graphics without any worries about copyright. They do have pro photos as well. So these are photos that if you don't have a pro account, you would need to pay for. But either way, there's a huge library of photos that you can go ahead and use them in your graphics and they can really kind of spice up what you're doing. And by using these photos, you don't have to worry about copyright.
And there's a search function right up at the top where if you're looking for a specific type of photo, say girls laughing or whatever it is, you can type it into the little search window and it'll come up with whatever images that Canva has to offer. And if you don't have a pro account and want to use some of their photos that are available for purchase, it's usually only $1 per photo to make that purchase. So very, very inexpensive if you don't have a pro account.
So once you've selected a photo or you've uploaded your own, which we'll talk a little bit about more in a few moments, Canva has some built-in functionality for photo editing. As we mentioned earlier, they have several effects that you can use. So you can use duotone, color mix, glitch, and these are just different effects that you can place over top of the photo that will kind of make it appear, like change how it looks and make it a little bit more interesting visually. The other thing you can do is you can use filters. So think of these kind of like Instagram filters or Snapchat filters. What they essentially do is they kind of change the color and the tone of your photo. So you can do something like change it so that it's monochrome. You can use a sepia tone. You can enhance colors and all sorts of different things, which is really helpful if you're trying to maybe you have a photo that you want to use, but it's maybe just not the right color for your brand. So you can go ahead and make this little edit so that it's more in line with what you want to be using. The other functionality that Canva has is you can do adjustments. So these are things like increasing the brightness or lowering the brightness, increasing contrast, increasing or lowering the saturation of the photo, changing the tints. You can blur photos, you can add vignettes. So there's a lot of different functionality that Canva has for basic photo editing as well. Below photos is the elements tab. So this is where you can do things like add shapes, you can add stickers, charts, all sorts of different things. Frames are also a really useful tool that Canva has. So basically what a frame is when you drop it into a graphic, and then you drop a photo on top of the frame, the photo will automatically be resized and reshaped to fit that frame. So it's a really easy way of putting interestingly shaped photos into your graphics. Next, we have the text section. So this is where you can go ahead and drop text into your graphic. As I mentioned before, Canva has a ton of free fonts that are already built in. If you have a pro account, you can actually upload your own fonts. So if you have a font you want to use that Canva doesn't already have installed, you can upload that. Or if you even have a font that's been created for your organization and you want to use that, you can upload that as well. The other feature that Canva has is they have pre-built font combinations. So these are combinations of fonts that the people at Canva have found to look good together, make it easy to read, make the information stand out, or be easy to understand. And you can use these font combinations if you're not quite sure how you want to put either two fonts together, or how you want to arrange font on or text on your graphics.
Of course, they're totally customizable. So if you choose one of the font combinations that you see there, and you can scroll down and find a lot more, you can obviously change the words. So they're the words that you want to insert into your particular graphic.
So underneath text, we have the music section. So these are short sound bites that you can include if you wanted to do something like create a short video. These are all going to be pretty much 30 seconds or less, so you really can't create any long videos that have music in the background. But if you're creating a short video, and most social media videos are going to be 60 seconds or less anyway, this is a really good tool for that. Again, most of these are going to either be free, or they would need a pro account, or to pay like $1 for them. Similar to the music section is a video section. So this is where there are short video clips that you can include. As you can see, I dragged and dropped one of these videos onto my graphic. If this was live, I could just hit that play button, and it would just play the video, a small little snippet of video. As you can see, most of these are 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 29 seconds, etc. So these are short little video clips that you can include if you're creating something like a short social media video or a social media GIF. Underneath videos, we have the background section, and what this is a curated section of photos that work well as backgrounds. So if you're looking for something to put behind some text, so if you're creating a graphic that's going to announce something and you just need something in the background to make it a little more visually interesting, this is a great area to find those kinds of photography. Underneath that is the upload section. So this is where you can upload your own photos. As you can see, I have a couple different photos that I've uploaded specifically here. And this just allows you to use your own content in addition to what Canva offers already. Underneath that is the folder section, and this allows you to have a little bit of organization within your Canva account, so you can find things that you've previously purchased, so you don't have to go back and repurchase them. You can see the logos that you've uploaded, and you can also see all of the designs that have been shared with you from other people in your organization. Underneath that, we have the more section. So this just is more integrations that you can do with other applications or software, as I mentioned before. So things like Google Maps, Instagram, Facebook. You can add emoji, you can add video clips from YouTube, all kinds of stuff. And then finally, at the very bottom, they have a section talking about their Canva Pro features. So they have things like a Brand Kit Pro version, Elements Pro, Photos Pro, etc. And this is where you can find more information about that. So once you've created your graphic, the next step is to download it. And you find this download button in the top right-hand corner, and when you click on it, it offers you several different options as far as downloading your graphic or image. So you can do PNG, JPEG, PDF standard, so that's going to be PDFs that you're going to be using online. They also offer PDF print quality, so that's going to be things that you're going to be printing out and handing out physically, things like posters or brochures. They also currently have in beta video and GIF downloading. So if you create one of these short videos, you can download it through here. Same with if you create GIFs. Canva also offers functionality to share your designs. So if you've created a graphic, but you want someone else to help you out with it, or maybe you want someone else to take a look at it before you download it, you can go ahead and put their email in this box that's found up in the top right-hand corner, and that allows you to share the design with them and allow them to edit it. It is important to note that they will require their own Canva account to do so, but if they don't have an account at the time that you send this email, they just need to hop in and create one really quickly, and then they'll have access to the designs you've shared with them. And then finally, you can also actually publish directly to social media from Canva. So if you set up integrations between your Twitter account, your Facebook account, Instagram, etc., you can post directly from Canva to your social media. The other thing you can do is you can email a graphic straight from Canva, so you don't have to download it and then attach it to an email and then send it. You can just send via email straight from Canva.
And we'll show you that in real time when we actually get into Canva and do a demonstration of building a graphic. So now that we've given you a general overview of Canva and its various features, we want to talk a little bit about graphic design best practices and some things that you should keep in mind and some rules of thumb that you should use when you're creating graphics of any kind. So we're going to talk about brainstorming. We're going to talk about using various elements that support your message and considering space and leaving some blank space in your designs. And we're also going to talk about making multiple drafts and the benefit of that and how you can visually look at things a little bit differently from one design to the other to determine which is best for your organization.
Alrighty, so let's say you have an idea. The next step is to turn that into a concept. The first thing you need to consider once you have kind of an idea is what your message actually is, which is essentially what you want your audience to pull from whatever piece of content you're creating. The next thing you need to do is figure out kind of what you want that to look like. And sometimes that can be difficult. Sometimes you have no idea what you want your graphic or content to look like. In those instances, the best thing to do is go out and try to find some inspiration. You can do that by looking at graphics or content that has been posted to social media sites like Instagram or Pinterest. You can go see what similar organizations have done. Obviously, we would not want you to be copying those directly since that's plagiarism, but you can go and find inspiration and see what other people are doing. And that way you can also figure out what you like in a graphic and what you like to see as far as content. Similarly, you can do the same thing with Google. You can hop onto Google, see what other people are doing. You can also use Google to stay on top of graphic design trends. They change very quickly year to year. Several years ago, it was super popular to have graphics or design elements that really pop off the page, kind of look 3D. And then today, flat design with really big blocky letters is what's in style. So that changes very quickly, and it's important to keep on top of that.
And you can also, oh, I'm sorry, Sinead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The last bit is when you're creating a graphic, you can also use a mood board. So that's basically either a board that you put together physically, so offline, or you can also do it online in something like a Word document. And you basically just kind of pull colors, photos, other graphics, or text, and you pull all of this information together. Things that you like, maybe you also put together a section of things you don't like, and then that kind of helps you visualize the different elements that you may want to include and things you definitely don't want to include.
And I was going to mention that you can also find inspiration in the Canva templates themselves, all the pre-made templates. There are literally tens of thousands of them. And so you can always just scroll through those until you find something that strikes your fancy that you can modify to make your own. All right, so when you're creating graphics, it's really important that the elements should support your message, whatever that message may be. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, we have two different types of graphics. On top, we have an invitation for a bachelorette party for a ladies' night. And then down below, we have the top portion of a resume for Louise Anderson. So you can see that for the ladies' night bachelorette party, We're using a whimsical font and bright colors because it's a party invitation, and that really matches the tone and mood of the message for that particular event. And then on the Louise Anderson top of the resume, you can see that we're using a plain font, we're using muted colors because it's for a resume. And so it needs to have a much cleaner, professional look. And so keep that in mind when you're designing. It's very common for new graphic designers to want to use a lot of bells and whistles and try 50 million different fonts in one document and 17 different colors. And simplicity is always best, no matter what it is you're designing. So you never want to use more than 2 or maybe 3 different types of fonts maximum, no matter what it is you're designing. And also keep the color choices to a minimum. And you probably don't want to use more than 2 or 3 colors as well in your design.
So as Erica mentioned, simplicity is always best when it comes to graphic design. And a good way to make sure you're keeping graphics simple is to incorporate white space. So white space is essentially empty space where there is no text, images, or photos. So it doesn't have to be white space, it can be any other color, whatever the background is. And what this does is it helps draw the eye to the important parts of the graphic and improves readability and understanding for the audience. So as you can see, we have a couple different examples here. So for the good food graphic, which is a poster for an event, you can see they kept it very simple. One photo, some white space in between the text so that it's easy to understand. And that way the eye is drawn first to the kind of slogan, good food, and then it's pulled directly to the actual information about the event. As you can see above that, where we have similarly a poster for a dance show, we have the image of the dancer, we have some text, but it's all very simplistic and easy to understand. If you use too many elements, so if you use a ton of photos, a ton of text, a bunch of different colors all over the place, what that essentially does is it creates something that's so busy, the eye slides right over top of it. If you keep it simple and just the most important information on the page and that's it, that ensures that your audience will pay attention to that information rather than just sliding right past it.
So when you're creating graphics, especially if you're new to graphic design, don't be afraid to make multiple versions of your graphic. And you can easily do that using the copy function that Shanae showed you in Canva. So to the left here, we have 4 different versions of essentially the same graphic. You can see that the wording is placed in a few different places in the various versions, that we've used some different imagery in a couple of the different squares, and we've repositioned some of the pictures. We've used some tinting on some of the pictures to give them a slightly different color tone. And by creating the different variations of the same graphic, it'll really help you decide which one is ultimately going to be best for your organization. And it's easiest to do this by making copies as opposed to continuing to change the single image that you're working on, because by the time you make 5, 6 different changes to a single image that you may be starting, you're not going to remember what looked best. Was it 3 versions ago? Was it the first version? Is it the 6th version? So by making copies like this, it really gives you a lot of flexibility to look at the design side by side and determine which ultimately is going to look best for your particular needs.
Alrighty, so now we are going to demonstrate how to create a Facebook graphic from scratch all the way to when you are going to download it. So here we have canva.com. This is my home screen, as I mentioned before. Up here at the top, we're going to go ahead and click Create a Design, and this is where we'll go ahead and select our dimensions. If the kind of graphic that you want to create isn't listed in these suggested graphic types, you just can go ahead and start typing it in, and then you can see we're going to go ahead and do a Facebook post. As we mentioned before, there's tons of different templates you can find here. So if we were going to do something about Halloween, we can go ahead and select one of these, drop it in. And as we mentioned, this is 100% customizable. So you can grab the different elements, you can move them around. So if we only wanted like one of these hands instead of both, we can get rid of one of them. We can change the text. So if we just didn't want this trick or treat at the top, get rid of that. We can also change it. So instead of like have a spooky night, we can say have a safe night, whatever we want. So they're 100% customizable and they're a great starting place. In this instance, we are going to start from scratch though, so I will get rid of all of these different elements. And the first place to start when you're creating graphics like this is you're going to start by selecting your background image. So if I hop into here, we can see all of these different trending photos, and some of these are pro and some of these are going to be free. To make the determination, if you only want free imagery, you can click this button right up here and just select free. And that means that all of the imagery that pops up is all going to be free. So if we say that we want something like cup of coffee on magazine, that will automatically pull photos that are all free and all have those design elements. So as you can see, they have tons of different photos and they all have those similar elements. So I think in this instance, I will go ahead and use this photo. So you can just go ahead and select it and it will auto-populate into your design area. And then you can go ahead and grab, you can reposition, and you can also resize. So that would just be moving it, grabbing it, and dragging. So you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller than what it was initially, whatever works best for you. So in this instance, I'm thinking maybe about that size, maybe a little bit bigger. And the reason why I selected this image is because it has a bunch of white space. And as we mentioned before, that's really important to creating imagery that's easy to understand and not overwhelming for the audience. What this also means is I have plenty of space to add a little bit of text over here. So once I have my image and I'm pretty happy with where that's situated, I would come down here to text. I can just go ahead and select the text I want to use. Because I've put together a brand kit for Three Girls Media, up here at the top, it automatically selects the text that I've selected as for my brand kit. So what we use is we use a font called Arima, and I can just go ahead, drag and drop it, and say, maybe I want this a little bit bigger. Maybe I want it about here. And then what I can also do is I can hop in here and change the color. So when I hit text color, you can see these are some different brand kits we've put together for some clients and then also for Three Girls. So these are all the colors that we use internally for all of our graphics. So I think I'm going to select this color right here, and you can see when I hover over it, that's the brand hex or the color hex code. So yeah, I think that looks really nice against the white. The other thing you can do is maybe you don't want to use your brand colors for whatever reason. You can come in here and select a new color, and you can slide along this wall, this rainbow down here, and select any color you want. If you have a specific color you want to use, you can just go ahead and put that hex code in right there. But I think I'm going to stick to this this turquoise color. So you would just go ahead and put it there, and then in this instance, I think I'm going to create a an image that has a quote to it. So I'll go ahead and on my other screen, I will pull the information for that. And I would just go ahead and copy and paste it. So if you're creating a graphic that you have specific information for, you can just go ahead and do that. Then we'll go ahead and resize that a little bit so the text isn't quite so large. You can also, obviously, if you want it to be aligned to the left or to the right, you can make it so it's justified all the way across. You can do aligned to the middle, however you want it.
You can also make it bold or italicized using the little toolbar up at the top, and you can also add effects as well.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that you can do, let's say I like this text, I like how it looks, but I think I want the text lines a little bit closer together. You can edit that as well. So you can slide this text so it's closer together. You can make it really wide if you want, but I think maybe about right there looks good. You can also change the letter size, so how much space is between the letters, and sometimes, you know, however you want to do it. Sometimes that's something you want to do, sometimes not. In this instance, I think I'll leave it kind of how it was and then just make the line height a bit shorter. So next, I think I want to go ahead and add in the attribution for the quote. So I'll just add another text box. I think I want it maybe about right there. So I'll go ahead and on my other screen, grab the attribution that we have for this quote, paste it in. So I like the size, but I don't like the color. So I'll go ahead and again, come in here and select this teal color from our brand kit. And now it's the same color. However, I do think because we have this font twice, I think it's blending in a little bit too much. So what I'll go ahead and do is highlight this, come into the font select up here, and maybe I'll use a different one. So I think I'll go ahead and use within the same family, so it's still a Rima, but I'll use a medium version instead of the bold version so that this text stands out a little bit. And then the final thing, or the second to last thing that I want to make sure to add to this is we always include our URL on all of the graphics that we create. And generally speaking, that's a pretty good practice to have. That ensures that every graphic that you create lets the viewer know who it belongs to and where they can find more information about you. It also allows you to brand your graphics as belonging to you, which is great so that if people happen to share it online without linking back to you, people still know where it came from. So we can go ahead and drop that in. And if we don't want to use this heading text box, we can use something like add a subheading instead, and that'll just choose whichever font we've specified we want to use for subheadings. I think I do want to go ahead and use our heading text for this. And if you noticed, I accidentally deleted the background for a second. And by hitting Control Z, I reversed that. So if I go ahead and do it again, I hit Control Z and it brings it back. And that's just the standard undo option. So I'll go ahead and drop this back in. And then I have my text, so I'll drop that in. So 3girlsmedia.com. And I think I'll go ahead and change the color. Let's do this teal color again. And I think I want it at the top, but there's not really enough space because I want some space between these three different pieces of text. So what you can do is you can select one of these and drag them. However, if I happen to want to just, let's say I have the spacing really good and I don't want to mess with it, I can click outside of both of them and then drag over top, and that selects both at once. So that means I can grab and it will move them around together for me, and that just makes it a little bit easier. The other thing you can do is if we have this exactly how we want it, you can hit this group button, and that means that Canva will treat this as one object, which is really handy if you have multiple different design elements on the page and you're trying to move them around as groups instead of individually. So we have this text up here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and center it above the text. But I think using the same color so many times, I think is making the URL kind of blend in a little bit too much. So I'll go ahead and come back in here. I'll highlight the text. Oops. I will highlight the text, click back onto our color, and then I think I'll use this other color that we have within our brand guidelines. And you can see that now this stands out a little bit more. I think I will make it a little bit bigger though, and you can change the size of text just by dragging and dropping. So I think maybe this size, and maybe I'll slide this over a little bit to give some more space between the text and the background image. Grab this and kind of put this right over top. And then finally, the last thing that I want to do to make sure that people know exactly where this graphic came from and who it belongs to is add our logo. So in this upload section that's down below, up here actually, my bad. You can go ahead and just select any images that you have uploaded. So this is the version of our logo I want to include. I just put that on, resize it to the appropriate size. And because our logo has a little bit of text, I want to make sure it's big enough to read. So I'll just put this in the corner, right about there. Make sure that the space between both this side and the bottom are about the same. And then I think I'm pretty happy with this at this point. What do you think, Erica?
I think it was great. So why don't we show them now once this is completed. You can see up in the top blue bar, it says all changes saved. You can also go to file and save if you want to just double check and make sure it's saved. And then now we're going to show you how to export this image. And there are a few different ways you can do it. Go ahead, Shanae.
So if you click this button up at the top, this is the download button, as I mentioned earlier, and this is where you can select if you want a JPEG, a PNG, PDF standard, PDF print, etc., etc. In this instance, we'll go ahead and use a PNG. PNGs are, generally speaking, a higher quality image file than a JPEG. That being said, PNGs are larger images and larger files, so if you have a ton of PNGs, they're going to take up more space on your computer or your hard drive than JPEGs. So there's a little bit of pros and cons to both. Since we're not printing this out, there's no reason to use a PDF print. And we have no need for a PDF version of this since we're just going to be posting it to social media. So we'll go ahead and select PNG. And then here at the size, you can manually change the size at this point. I wouldn't recommend doing that, however, because if you manually change at this point, it's not going to change the actual image. It will only change the image at which it's downloaded. So what that'll do is if it's a larger version of the image, so if I said, I want to download it so it's 1880 by 1576, the content within the image will not be any bigger than it was before, and it'll just kind of look blown out. So generally speaking, I would say leave this size bit alone and only make adjustments by coming in here with resize or starting from scratch. You can also select if you want a transparent background. So this is useful if you're creating a logo image or you're creating some sort of imagery that will sit on top of a darker background on your website. And that requires that you download it as a PNG. And then you can also compress a file, but that lowers the quality, but you do have a smaller file size. So at this point, we can go ahead and hit download. You can see it is preparing our design, and it is now saved to my computer. So at this point, you can either continue editing or go to your home page. I'll go ahead and hit continue editing. So if I wanted to publish directly to Facebook, you can go ahead and just click this button. I would need to connect my Facebook at this point, and then I would be able to publish and create a post straight from Canva this way.
And you can do that for any of the main social media platforms. You can do it for LinkedIn or for Instagram, for Twitter. You can do it for a lot of different platforms, including Pinterest. So it's very useful if you want to publish directly to your social media platforms.
And then the third option is to share your image, as we mentioned before. So if I happen to want to share this with Erika, I can just go ahead and type in her email address here. And then you can specify whether you want this person you're sharing it with to have edit access or just to be able to view it. So I would say, Erika, I want you to be able to edit this. I think you need to take a look. And then you would just hit enter, and that seals the deal. And then you can hit send invite, and it will be sent to them, and they can go ahead and edit as well. But now that we've downloaded our image and we're good to go, I think that concludes our demonstration.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about how you can get a hold of us if you've got specific questions. You can reach us on our website at 3girlsmedia.com. This 408 number is my cell phone from when I was back in the Bay Area. I kept the 408 number, but that's me directly, so you can call me or text me there. And then we have mine and Shanae's email addresses. We're more than happy to answer any emails you have. Below that is where you can find us on the various social media platforms if you wanted to check out our accounts and see how we're using different graphics that we create. And then lastly, we offer a complimentary consultation that's done specifically with me and Shanae. And it gives us an opportunity to answer your questions directly, to talk about your organization and how we might be able to help you. And what we usually generate following a proposal is a proposal that we can outline the project in black and white with the cost attendant to it and give you something to look at and share with your team members if necessary. So I encourage you to take me up on that complimentary consultation if you've got any questions about how we might be able to help with your graphic design or other areas of your marketing and PR for your business. And then we're open to questions. Does anybody have any questions that we can answer about Canva, about graphic design in general?
So I do think I saw a few things pop up in the chat.
Oh, great. So a message from Jennifer, I saw that if you're a nonprofit, you can actually apply to Canva as a nonprofit, and they'll give you all the pro features for free. So that's great. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. That's fantastic. And Nicole, thank you. I'm glad you recommend the consultation. And if you have more questions once you play around in Canva, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and ask. You can email us, and we're more than happy to answer simple questions. Don't forget, there's also the Canva Design School that you can rely on that has some great tutorials in there and courses that you can take. Any other questions about Canva or about graphic design that we can answer for you today? And if not, we're happy to take your questions in the future as you get in there and play around.
Oh, looks like Hillary might have a question. You can go ahead and come
I have
off.
a question. I was just going to say thank you so much. It's great to see y'all. And we do use Canva, and it was really helpful to have that overview of all of the different elements and how to like couple two different elements together so they both get pulled together. So thanks. That was really helpful.
Oh, good. Good. That's great. I'm glad you found it helpful.
Perfect. Well, I mean, if we don't have any other question, I do have a few that were noted. Just a couple of different comments and questions that were from the registration forms that people filled out. If you wanted to maybe kind of go through some of those, see if maybe people still have some of those questions.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the first ones that we talked about, that someone talked about, was in relation to Give Local. And they were asking how to balance using their own organization's logo while taking advantage of the collective brand of Give Local. So how to kind of stand out and also still fit within the realm of Give Local.
Yeah, well, co-branding is something that's really important. It can benefit both organizations. So on the graphic that Shanae created in real time that we added our logo. You can certainly add the Give logo as well as your own brand's logo. And you can mention both in a graphic, or if it's not in the graphic itself, then maybe if you're posting something on social media about Give Local, you can mention them and tag them in the actual post so they see it. It gets more visibility on their feed if they share it. And that way you're both benefiting from the co-branding. And ideally, it's a great way to keep your own brand identity out there, but also pull in the branding of Give Local.
Awesome. Well, I also have a little bit more so we have one that's still talking about branding. And it says, we have recently started to use Canva for our social media and advertising initiatives, but struggle to create engaging content that is also consistent with our brand. What are some basic graphic design techniques or tips and tricks to using Canva effectively for this?
Yeah, so some of that we covered. I would recommend about keeping it simple. Don't use too many different fonts all in one graphic. Don't use too many different colors. Keep it simple, but you also want to make it visually engaging. So think about what kind of background or what kind of photo you can use that's really going to draw the eye, because it's the visual that's going to be what catches people's attention first, and then they're going to read the text of your advertisement. So you want to make sure that your message is on point, and that whatever graphics you choose or background you choose is in line with your message. And don't be afraid to think out of the box. For example, we have a staffing agency as a client that we were doing an ad campaign for on LinkedIn, and we were creating various graphics for the ad campaign. And staffing agencies, it's kind of boring, right? I mean, nothing very exciting there, but they wanted their ads to really stand out. So when we were choosing photos for the ads, we used bright colors, and we used things like a woman shouting through a megaphone with her eyes wide open and kind of a shocked look on her face, or a guy jumping up and down looking really excited, and things that were a little out of the box but still caught people's attention. So that's something that you could consider as well. But overall, keep it simple, think out of the box to do something maybe a little bit exciting or different that's going to catch people's attention, and stay simple with the fonts and the colors.
I have a question, Melissa. This is Jennifer.
Go for it.
Okay, if I ask. So I use Canva a lot, all the time, and I love it. But there's one frustrating thing with creating a Facebook cover image, because the dimensions are different on desktop and on mobile. And you know, the platform will use the same image for both. And when you use Canva to create it, I think it sizes it for the desktop version. And then when you put on mobile, then like everything's cut off because it only uses the middle. Do you have any tips for how to, I mean, I guess you can just squish all your stuff into the middle. And I do that sometimes just by eyeballing it. But do you have any super secret tips and tricks for getting around that? I think it happens with the YouTube cover image as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go onto Google and look up dimensions for a Facebook cover image on desktop and on mobile. And then when you're creating the graphic in Canva, you can use custom size. So you can actually size the image before you start creating it for your brand, and make sure that you're punching in the right dimensions and using those custom dimensions. Sinead, did you have any other suggestions for that?
Because Facebook does just use the one image, like Erica was saying, I would suggest using the mobile size kind of as the default, since at that point you know that when you use that version of the image, nothing is going to get cut off when you view it on mobile, whereas if you're just using the Facebook desktop version and you're using kind of the entire space, it may get cut off. So I would say always use the smaller of the two and design around that one.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of using the bigger one. And then just to hop in super quick, I see a question from Nicole. Can you use a Facebook post size for Instagram as well, or other way around? Generally speaking, we use the Instagram as kind of the Instagram post size, which is a square, kind of more universally than the Facebook post size. So if you're going to use one or the other, I would suggest using Instagram for both rather than using Facebook for both, because Instagram, very specifically, you need to have that kind of square image, whereas Facebook is a lot more versatile and kind of allows you to use different sizes, even though there is a specific size that is quote unquote the best size to use.
Perfect. So we also had a question of how to manipulate logos. So I know you kind of touched on it briefly earlier about like kind of building your logos in there. Someone mentioned that they've used Adobe Photoshop for the last few years to manipulate their logos. But is there better ways to do that through Canva instead?
Well, the nice thing is in Canva, it's very easy to resize your logo just by dragging and dropping. And then you can also easily change colors. You can change fonts. You can change filters if you wanted to use certain filters on your logo and that sort of thing. Now, of course, Canva is a much simpler program than InDesign or Photoshop. And so you're not going to have all the functionality there, but at least to manipulate the basics, Canva is a very easy way to go. Sinead, did you have other suggestions for that?
So when it comes to manipulating logos, if it's something like removing a text from your logo, so you just want a version that's just like the icon itself versus having the text on it as well. One thing I would suggest is you can use Canva to kind of drop boxes of color or white boxes on top of areas of your logo. So if it's a logo that's on a white background with some text underneath it, you can just drop a white box over top that text and then turn it into just the icon. Or if it's a colored logo with a colored background, you can use Canva to find that exact color using the hex codes, and then drop just a box of color over top the text and turn it into an icon that way as well.
Would you be able to show us kind of a sample of how to do that really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me find a good example of a logo for that super quickly. So this will take me a moment. So if you want to maybe answer another question in the meantime, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll go with another one. So there also is another question that says, wanting to know, how do you make graphics that stand out while also looking professional?
Yeah, I think some of the things that we covered are absolutely key. I'll go back to the example that we used where we had the invitation for the ladies' night bachelorette party versus the example we showed of the top of a resume. So it really comes down to font and color choice. I think has a lot to do with it. Depending on your organization, you can certainly use brand colors. But the fonts you use, you probably, if you want to have something look very professional, you don't want to use fonts that are too whimsical or flowery. You want to make choices that are more straightforward and clean looking, have clean lines that'll give you that professional look. And then also choosing more professional colors. You probably don't want a lot of pinks or lime greens or neon oranges. Instead, you might want to stick with, blues or browns or those kinds of things that have a more professional feel to it. And then I'll say it again, simplify, 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 and make sure you're leaving yourself a lot of white space in the designs that you create. And all of that will help you look more professional in your graphics.
Alrighty, so I think I'm good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring Canva back over onto my screen. So this is a logo of a client that we have. And let's say that this was the only version of the logo we had, but we wanted a version that just had this little fish icon at the top. What we can do is we can click over here into elements. So if we were in photos, just click in elements, and then we can use just a square box. You plop that in. It kind of randomizes the color that it's going to appear in, but you would just click on color. And then since I want straight white, I would just go up here to the top, drag it up into this corner, or you can put the hex code, which is 5 Fs, I believe. Maybe, yeah, it's 6 Fs. Drop that in. And then we have this nice white box that we can just kind of place over top of the text. It might take a couple different boxes, or it might take just one. And by doing that, we have a different version of the logo now that's just this top part. And then when you go ahead and export this, both of the box on top will be flattened into the rest of the image, and you won't be able to tell that there was ever text there at the start. The other thing you can do, like I mentioned, is if this was a different color, you can just go in here and use the hex codes to find the correct color. There's a couple different online tools where you can upload an image, and then by clicking on different parts of the image, it will automatically pull the hex codes. And I've done that on more than one occasion, and then I just put those hex codes in here. So if we needed like a red color of some sort, and like let's say this fish was on a red color, you can do the exact same thing.
Awesome, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's see. So I was also looking at there's several of them that people were expressing that this is their first time using Canva, and they're kind of wanting to learn everything. So what would be kind of like the best place for folks to really start practicing? What are the main things that people should practice when they're trying to make using Canva for different social media imagery?
Yeah, so I would say if you're brand new to Canva and brand new to graphic design, that I would rely maybe on some of the templates that Canva has pre-created for you, because you know that they're all designed well in terms of dimensions, look, white space, simplicity. They've got it all. And you can get in there and highly customize them to make them your own colors, your own fonts, but you know you're going to have a good looking graphic out the gate. And by using the pre-designed templates, it's going to start giving you a feel for what good graphic design is and maybe how to start creating your own from scratch. So I think if you're a total newbie, trying to use some of the templates and customizing those is probably a great place to start. And then also remember there's Canva Design School. We've only had an opportunity here to do a brief overview of most of the features and elements of Canva, but you can certainly dive in a lot deeper. And Canva Design School is a great option for that, and it's free.
Awesome. And I guess like on the opposite end of that, what would you recommend people try to start doing as so maybe they've gotten more comfortable with Canva and they want to kind of take the next steps to kind of like up their game a little bit. What would be some good, like suggested tools on things that maybe they should start considering putting a little more effort towards learning how to use in Canva?
Yeah, well, the nice thing is that Canva has so much functionality when it comes to the apps and different things that you can use. So for example, one of the apps in there was Google Maps. So if you're creating a flyer for your business and wanted to integrate a map in it, you could connect it with Google Maps and include a map to your business. There's other apps where you can include emojis or different color shading and things of that nature. And it gives you so much more flexibility to create highly custom images that a lot of beginners might not feel comfortable playing with. So I would say definitely look in the apps and see what you might want to play or integrate with there. Sinead, do you have other ideas as well?
One thing I would just suggest is get really outside of the box with it. Having experience with both Photoshop, InDesign, and Canva, I would say that Canva because it's a free tool and it's browser based, it is more limited, but you can really get creative and kind of get outside the box with it. So like I mentioned with logos, you can drop boxes on top of things to kind of hide different aspects of it, since you don't have tools like the eraser tool, you don't have tools like the heal tool where you can like build pieces of images back in. So the other thing you can do is, like, let's say you have an image that you love the background, you love it, but maybe there's just like something in the background that you want to get rid of for this image. If you just take that image and you paste it back in and then you crop it so it's just another part of the background that looks the exact same, just place it on top of that piece, that photo, and get rid of that piece of background. So it's kind of things like that where you just really get outside of the box with it, maybe kind of use these different elements or these different functions maybe in different ways that aren't necessarily intended, but it works great for things like that. So the more you play around with it, I would say, the more you kind of pick up on little tips and tricks like that. And then also just make sure you're using things where you can like use the flip function to turn photos around. You can tilt photos, so if you want something at like a 90-degree angle or a 32-degree angle or anything you want. So just really making use of all of the functions in both ways that are intended, and then kind of playing around with them and maybe in ways that aren't necessarily intended, but they do work in that way.
Awesome. Well, I have one more. And so this one was saying that they'd like to learn more easy and efficient ways to use Canva to attract new followers and connect with current followers and clients. So what might be some good ways of not only like, what are some good ways to kind of like connect with their audience?
Sure. Well, one of the things that will always help engage people on social media is asking questions. So you can create a graphic where you ask a question that's relevant to your nonprofit, or what kind of post would you like to see us, populate, or what questions do you have about our nonprofit organization, or Did you know XYZ? What do you think about that? Those kinds of things are a great way to get feedback and build engagement with your followers. And you can reiterate that not only in the graphic itself, but also in the text of your social media post. And I also find that things like polls, little trivia, bits of trivia maybe about your nonprofit, or different fun factoids. You can do a little Q&A, what year were we founded? Who can give me the answer? And then have people engage in that sort of thing. So I think trying to build engagement by asking questions or doing little quizzes or Q&A or those sorts of things can really help engage and help you build your audience.
Perfect. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, Erika and Shanae. Does anybody else have any other questions before we go? Well, if we don't have any other questions, that's totally fine. You can feel free to message Erika or Shanae at a later date. I will be sending the recording of this session along with the slide materials and contact information, so that way if anyone does have any questions or wants to do a consultation, which is always good, because obviously Erika and Shanae have a lot of great information, can be a lot of help for you and your organization. I will go ahead and send that email out in the next day or two. And with that, hopefully I will get to see all of you later. And thank you again so much to Erika and Shanae at Three Girls Media for doing all this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope that everybody found this helpful. And like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions. We're more than happy to answer your emails or do a consultation, and hope to hear from you. So good luck and happy designing.
Great, thanks so much. See everyone later.
Okay, bye everybody.